Hello, my name is Luisa, and I am part of the organizing team for last year's Point Sud conference, Struggles for Democracy in the Global South, that we organized in Dakar. An important topic during the conference was how social movements in Africa actually dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic. So to get different perspectives from activists across the continent, we started this little YouTube interview series. And today we are talking with Rwida Matar, who is based in Khartoum in Sudan, to hear more about the struggle she's engaged in and ask her how the past years of the pandemic times have been for her movement. Rwida, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much for interviewing me and just allow me to share hi to everyone.
To start, could you tell us a bit more about the movement you are involved with and what you're actually struggling for?
Yes, basically I'm working for a Harisat organization, or you can call it the Guardians organization. It's a women political and civil organization, a newly established one in 2018 during the Sudanese Revolution. Basically, I'm the general secretary of one of the co-founders of the organization. We started in a very, very tough time where security people are everywhere and there is no way to go and to express your feelings, to express your opinions and so on. So we started the revolution, and as women, we say that we wanted to be in the streets with our people. So we established very small groups at the beginning, secret groups actually, to support the demonstrations at the streets. And we support the demonstration like providing human supply, providing logistics, and this kind of things. And we got to the sit-in after a very long negotiations with the military people, and we got the constitutional documents to govern a transitional period after a sit-in by the Sudanese people.
Could I go step back, and could you tell us why you personally decided to get involved in this struggle and with this organization?
Actually, I've answered this question, Louisa, because I told you that the trigger. I am an assistant professor in a university where I meet my students and do my everyday job, doing lectures, exams, and some conversations with my students. But you know, the situation in Sudan was horrible, and we needed to get rid of the last regime. It was tough and humiliating and harmful, especially for women. And by the time the streets say that we don't want this anymore, I personally felt like I don't want to be with my people. It's about time to get rid of this regime. So me and other friends, basically they are colleagues in the education sectors, we decided to come together and to see what we can do at that time. So we thought of why not to support demonstrations? Why not to engage ourselves with demonstrations and provide what we can do? And we did so. At that time, the movement was not organized. It was just a movement of women who feel like they want to do something for their country. They want to do something for their people. So we started like this. And then we after the demonstrations and the start of the negotiation, we find ourselves that we're doing the sit-in. Okay. During the sit-in, we said that also we can have something to do with our people. So what we did exactly at that time, we said that let's support people psychologically and legally. So we started our work in the sit-in with supporting people who have been in confrontation with military or the security people, those who have been humiliated by them, those who are psychologically not okay with what happened to them during that regime. So we talked to some of the counselors, because some of us are counselors already and psychiatrists, and we have some friends who are lawyers, and we said that let's have a permanent tent in the city. In the tent, you can come, you can talk, and you can get the support that you need. And unfortunately, after the attack, the sit-in attack, the things went out of control. Yet we started to think of what we can do more. So we thought, why not to be organized?
Mhm.
Now we are many, we're different, but many, and with a unified goal. The goal was at that time is to support the transitional period,
Mhm.
and to save and to guard the revolution's values,
Mhm.
freedom, peace, and justice. Doing some projects, working with people, enhancing women to engage in the public life. Specifically, we're talking about the economic and the political life. Yes. So since that time, we've been organized even before we've been registered.
Mhm.
But we were organized with a structure and roles and responsibilities and some projects ongoing. So what we did exactly, we spent a lot of time supporting women participation in the political life.
Mhm.
Okay, and we did some campaigns to support women participation. We've talked to different ministerials, governance, and we talked to government officials also to support the representation of women in the structure of the country and so on. So it was like I found in Al Harithat like a very, very personal interest.
Mhm.
So we gave it our time and money and effort at that time before we can go and we can seek for sponsorship from other organizations and so on.
Amazing. Thank you, Rwida. That sounds very, very interesting and very impressive too. You already started talking a little bit how your work changed when the pandemic hit. Could you give us a little bit of context? Because, like, of course, here in the West, the pandemic was very different, I guess, perceived and governed than it might have been in Sudan. So, did you have lockdowns? Were there any similar measures in place? Was it predominantly a health crisis or an economic crisis? How did you experience that?
Actually, just like other countries, but you can just add a little bit more in Sudan because of the political situation at that time. The treasury was completely empty.
Mhm. Perfect.
So I was saying that just like other countries, with a little bit consideration for the political situation at that time, it wasn't easy for Sudanese people to accept that there is something else rather than the revolution is happening in Sudan. Okay, so yeah, we couldn't take any kind of the decisions regarding our health for granted or like serious things. But the pandemic came and the Ministry of Health started to send the calls. I started to send messages that some lockdown is going to happen.
Mhm.
So the question was, what about the families who are in the informal sector?
Mhm.
Those who are in the streets selling fruit, tea, coffee, and whatever. What about them? Basically, most of them are women.
Mhm.
So as a Harisat, it's women organization. So we thought, why not to support them with other partners, of course. But the big challenge was how to support them with a very minimum and limited
Mhm.
budget. We were newly established, and it wasn't at that time about being an organization working in projects and seeking funds. No, it's about al-Harisat and their own funds and contribution. So, because we are like over 200 guardians around Sudan, we thought that we're paying some contribution to sustain our work. Why not to go and engage with private sectors? So this was the success story and the model that I want to basically reflect. It is not something normal for the civil society organizations, specifically in Sudan, to engage with private sectors. And I know in the worldwide, it's not an easy story, and it's not something very usual to engage with private sector, unless they want to engage with you, not you want to engage with. Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So yeah. So because we are many and we are different economically and educationally and so on, so we started a campaign, and we call it like the Soul Guardians. Yes, the Soul Guardians. The Soul Guardians wanted to support Sudanese women, the household Sudanese women, and we started to think of, let's think about the scenario of the lockdown. If we are going to a lockdown, let's be ready. We want them to respond positively to the calls of the ministry, women's in the streets, but they also want to feed their kids. So what we did exactly, we supported them with giving them an amount, not of money, an amount of stuff, food stuff that they can survive their kids and their families in the lockdown. And the first one was like 2 weeks. So we gave them like rice, oil, tomato sauce, ethyl, and so on. And we have served in the first edition like 500 families from the neighbor, but basically in Khartoum. And then when we did this, and we get the lockdown, and we were ready to respond to the lockdown. Okay, amazing. So we did the second edition and the third edition. We supported another 200 family, and then we supported at the end 700 family. Wow. Yes, and the food were to sustain them for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks. Yes. But on the other hand, we were thinking of the health system in Sudan. It was weak, very weak, and the doctors were not able to get the basic assistance, like the gloves and so on. So on the other hand, yes, what we did exactly, yes, we are a women organization, so let's think of those who are delivering their babies during this pandemic. Yes. So we started to support the obs and gynae sections within the hospitals. Yes, because they are dealing with blood and things, and something that you cannot say, I don't want to do it. You are delivering your baby, you are going to do it. So yes, so we supported the doctors at the obs and gynae sections in the hospitals, basically 2 hospitals in Khartoum. We were providing some logistics for them, and we were providing also food for them to keep them in the hospital. Yes. So we focused on the 2 different issues, working with women at the community level and working with the health care.
Amazing. That's very impressive, Rwida.
Of course, it was very challenging because, you know, the demand is very high, and we were receiving calls every now and then that we run out of gloves, the hospitals. And you cannot say, sorry, you cannot afford it now. You have to do it anyway.
Of course,
yes.
Yeah.
But with partnership and not working, it was good.
Very interesting. Rwida, so you've told us a little bit that your organization was kind of born out of the revolution in Sudan. And before we started the interview, you were telling me the revolution is still ongoing. Could you tell us a little bit about the wider context you're working in? What's happening at the moment with the revolution in Sudan?
Yes, being born in a very tough situation, as I mentioned, during the revolution. And we needed to deal with the security people in ourselves and so on. But although we arrived to start a transitional period, yet on the last 25th of October, the military people did a coup again till now.
Mm-hmm.
So people back to street because civilians does not want a military government anymore.
Okay, and then maybe to finish up our interview that I've learned personally a lot from, could you tell us what you hope to accomplish with your movement and your organization in the next years?
Sure. Actually, although the situation is not clear in Sudan, and it's a little bit difficult to plan in Sudan, specifically in this situation, yet we will keep fighting the dictatorial regimes in Sudan and get back to the democratic path after the fighting the coup of 25 October. But in response to what we get, the lesson that we've learned after the pandemic and the revolution, we're thinking very seriously about two different issues. The first is the women economic empowerment projects, such as we're thinking of why not to support establishments of women's cooperatives.
Mm-hmm.
Why not to support establishment of a very small and simple business clubs for women.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, business club for women. So these are the two ideas in the pipelines of Al-Hadisat for the upcoming year, the issues of women economic empowerment, because we believe that if you are economically empowered, then you will get the chance to send your voice. You will get the chance to engage in the different issues like the political participation and the participation in the public life. So why not to go for deep contribution with the economic development. Also, we are designing a huge program. We call it Youth Fighting Hate Speech.
Mm-hmm.
Because also the situation now, although that we are fighting the group, yet there is a hate speech between the different parties in the one camp, those who are in the one camp, you know. So we are working on this project. We are designing the project, but what is different about it is we want to support a very peaceful behavior in the civil society and the politics also, and to facilitate unity of different democratic camps in Sudan to unify their opinion and to at least get to minimum agenda of unity to fight the situation. We're going to use some techniques like culture, forums, media, debates, training, and so on. So these are the ideas in the pipeline for the upcoming years.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rwida. I wish you all the best for the continuation of your struggle in Sudan. And yeah, thank you so much for participating in this YouTube series.